Hello, I'm Axel, and I'm here with Shannon. Thank you, Shannon, for coming again and doing an interview. It's a pleasure to have you doing the interview. The last time we did an interview, I think actually was a very powerful interview. Something that I have listened several times just for myself, and I've encouraged other people to listen to because, I think it's a powerful story of your ups and downs, overcoming the injury, and beating the odds and winning a championship with your injury. That was very inspiring. Although I remember the story was a bit tough to hear because I felt the pain you suffered through the injury. So thank you. But can you tell me what has happened since then? So it's been close to 3 years, almost or maybe even more. So. Yeah,
I think a little bit over 3 years. Yeah. That's crazy. I remember when we were sitting in the other office there. That's crazy. So what has happened since last time we met? Man, strength camp's obviously a little bit different. The gym is a little bit different. The way that things are changing around, and we're actually 3 years ago we were rolling Strength Camp International into production. So that's the international franchising of the other gyms that we have. And now 3 years later, I think back then we were starting with maybe 5 gyms, and we've had probably now 20 strength camps open. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but we've got 20. So that we're growing like we talked about. You know, the plan was to grow across the world and everything, and then it's been a lot of fun to see the growth of those other gyms as well, in addition to the gym here, because there's just so many things that have changed. Of course, systems like running the actual business. Now I run everything here at Strength Camp, so I'm the CEO, which is cool. I think last time, 3 years ago, I might have just been one of the coaches.
You were the manager, I think.
Yeah.
The manager of the gym.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's kind of like, we can talk about the business systems and everything like that. It's not really super interesting, but the feeling of what it's like, to kind of see my own kind of journey and lessons to go through and trials. Not everything's always fun. There's a lot of stuff that actually is not fun, but it does make you better.
Right.
So there's because of those things, and things that happen, outside in the world as well. We have different people, Mark and Julie were here when you were here 3 years ago, and now Mark and Julie, they're on a journey of their own. They're actually living in Canada, and Mark just graduated from the fire academy as valedictorian, so he's living a different path, which is so awesome to see him and Julie both. And so with them leaving, obviously that means we had to have new coaches come in as well, and you've met Nick and Jake, Sarah and Sheena, and of course, Chris is still here, running and coaching a lot of the professional athletes and things like that. But things are just different in a good way. Growth, change equals growth. Growth is good. If not, you're kind of dying.
I like that you touched the aspect of growth, and I think one of the ways how you measure growth is setting goals. And sometimes those goals are winning a championship, right? Mm-hmm. So I would like to touch into that. Can you tell about how, maybe just from the feeling aspect as well, how does it feel to win a championship, and what do you think it takes to win a championship?
Yeah. So I was thinking about, of course, this morning coaching before we were going to sit down and do the interview for the second time. And there was a song that came on probably during your class, actually. And
which one you're referencing?
It's called Memories by David Guetta featuring Kid Cudi. And so,
which one is it? I think
you're trying to get me to sing on camera. Yeah. You gotta go listen on to your own. Yeah. All right. But that song is really powerful because I remember it still brings goosebumps, to me, and I still get the chills, I guess, listening to it because I still have the playlist saved on my computer and my phone, and I'll listen to it every once in a while just to kind of get into the zone, but. Music and the feeling that it gives me, the reason it's chills, because I have so many great memories, and not a tie into the name of the song or anything, but great memories of the night when I won the national championship,
Right.
and all the trials that I had to kind of, fight through, and just to get to that moment right there led to, and I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last interview, but I think it still is important, led to, like, right before the game, I was cleared, still had to wear the brace, and because I got 2 different of the injections into my knee, the numbing medicine,
Mm-hmm.
that required me I had to sit in the locker room for about an hour by myself while everyone else is out on the field warming up and getting ready for the game.
What was the reasoning for just sitting down like that? It was
So the medicine could, like, if I was up and active too much or too fast,
Right.
then it would have spread all over my body,
Okay.
as opposed to just staying in my knee in that
okay,
area.
I see.
So it's like when I had just gotten to cleared everything else, in the couple weeks leading up to that game. Of course, the team had to win, the week before, when I came back in the semifinals,
right.
and so coming back, it's like, okay, we finally we had to come back to win that semifinal game. I mean, this was my senior year. It's my last chance. My football career after this was it was going to be over, because when I hurt my knee, I was not going to go to the NFL anymore.
Right.
Which that was a hard pill to swallow, but whatever, because I'm still focused on the task at hand. We still have a chance to win, and I still have a chance to play, which is really important for me. And because that's why you're setting the goal, right, to win the national championship. And so I finally get there, and I in my head, I'm kind of like, all right, what other things do I have to check off the box before I can, like, get to the game? It's like, oh, you have the whole week of preparation, and there's banquets.
You wanted to turn every stone and look
yeah
for everything. Right?
and I think I just wanted to go, like, right to it. It's like, let's just get to the game. Just get me to the game right now, and I can
Right.
play, and I'm good, right? Then, and in my head, the whole week of preparation, the trainers and the doctors are like, the only thing that could go wrong is if something does go wrong, and you can only get more hurt if you, like, do something great, like a freak injury, and that would only mean that you would break your leg. That's kind of, like, I don't know if it was if they meant like a compound fracture or anything. Obviously that didn't happen. I'm thankful for that.
Right.
So that would have been a different experience playing the game. But the whole week the reason why that's important is the whole week they were saying they're going to give me the medicine, they're going to let it get into my system properly, because the week before it did not, and the medicine basically went away. So it's kind of a waste.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking in my head, all right, cool, they're going to give me the shot, I'm going to wait a little bit before the game, and then I'm going to go play. This is the last game of my career ever. Like, this is the absolute last chance. Like, my back's up against it. Was a great feeling, actually. It was very scary, but okay, I'm excited. I'm going to use that. So I thought, I was like, okay, it's the day of the game, and the night of the game, I'm sorry, and I'm getting dressed, everything, I'm taped up, ready to go, and then they say, oh yeah, so now that you have, now that we've given you these shots, you have to wait like an hour for it to sit, and I'm like,
right.
Yeah. So in my head, I'm so focused on the game and the game plan and the plays that we're going to run and the strategy and all this stuff. And I'm so excited to be out with my team again, warming up, feeling, because I'm going to feel brand new. I'm going to feel no pain, is what they were saying.
Your feelings, like, on the hold, like, right?
Yeah. I'm like, all right, okay, I'm counting down to the game. It's like an hour and a half until the game. And they're like, all right, you have to wait here for like an hour. I'm like, so it only gives me like 30 minutes maybe, or I think it was 15 before the game actually started, that I could warm up and do that. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to have enough time, because I'm going to, all these things. So just when I had gotten to like the one last thing I thought it was going to have to be is it's finally game time, I had gotten everything else done. Now they're telling me I have to wait by myself in the locker room. So I got the Beats headphones,
Right.
and I'm just sitting there, and I got my playlist going as always, and it's crazy, like, how locked in you can be on your objective.
Right.
But then I'm like, it's like messing with my head. It's like I'm sitting there by myself, and I'm feeling great, and all the medicine is obviously working, and I feel less pain. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm getting excited, and I'm like looking at my watch or my phone or whatever, and it's like 55 minutes left until I can go outside and play. So I had to kind of, and then again, like, just when I thought I got to the kind of the finish, I still had to wait a little bit, or there was another new challenge, and I could have totally psyched myself out. And I remember right before and during that time, talking to myself, saying like, dude, like, calm down, take a deep breath. Like, I can't be too excited to go out there and play, because and if I don't listen to them, then the medicine won't work and I won't be able to play.
Right.
So it's kind of like a punishment in the reward. Man, so that just was, and that song was, I think I listened to that song probably 10 times in a row, and just the beat is really high, and those headphones were great. They were noise canceling too, so I'm just kind of completely in my zone, getting pumped up, man. And that's probably one of the most powerful feelings than actually winning the game. Because the game came and went like any competition does. I think it's kind of, then you kind of look back afterwards and remember things. But definitely when you have an emotion that pops up from a song or something, it triggers a memory, and you're like, wow, I'm right there. When we heard it this morning, I was like, I have my helmet on, I have my shoulder pads on, my jersey's on, and it kind of was like, it's giving me goosebumps. Back in the moment. Yeah.
Funny, not funny, but like interesting that you touched that, because like I heard this before, that the night before the game or the competition, that's the worst. Mm-hmm. Like it's similar in your case, right? Like building up to that moment, it's like the worst.
Yeah.
And when the game comes, similar like you mentioned, it's like a relief. It's like a relief. I remember I had this competition this year actually, and we had to take a bus over there, and 4-hour ride. It was like roads were bumpy and stuff like that, and I got sick in the car, in the bus. And so I was like, am I like getting stressed about this or something? Like, what's up? Probably because like I had to like eat a bit more, and then I didn't eat enough. So I was like, that was like mixing both together. But when I did all my warm ups and it was about to be that time when the gun will go off, I felt so much peace. Like all day long, I had the last race. That was the final race, right? It was the final. I felt so much peace at that moment that it was like, okay, this is that moment that I'm training, living, and like doing that. Mm-hmm. Perhaps you can tell about like through your training leading up to that championship game. You said that was your senior year. You obviously played before, right? I don't know, in lower levels, right? High school and stuff like that.
Right.
How was that? Like, as you said, that was your last game. That was like a big culmination of everything that like you had all of these long years of training, like, and leading up to that one moment. How was that routine, and like did you had a routine, and like how did you approach the training and all that? Like, how was that, like, not only just in game but like the training, and what was your basically mentality approaching getting the championship? Because like every day you cannot get a championship, and you just prepare for that day. You will have that opportunity. Because they say luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, great question. Yeah. I'm trying to remember back, because it's been a couple years since then, but I think for me specifically in my journey was the reason. Whenever anyone's like, "Hey, this is my last chance. This is my senior year. This is whatever. I can go ahead and give it my all, or that's gonna motivate me enough to push me over the edge." That only works like in the first 10 minutes of your workout, or maybe the first 10 minutes that you decide to actually go work out. Because no matter how good your habits are, you still have to make the decision to go train. Or to go to practice and do those things. So it only helps you kind of like I'm going to get to a bigger kind of subject, but it's like motivation versus discipline. Mm-hmm. Discipline being the habits. Motivation is like, I got a little bit motivated. That's just the Kickstarter. Then the discipline comes into actually going through the training, which was the same as every year, because we just had that championship caliber program. That was. And in fact, I think in my case specifically, it was like a little bit of a negative thing, kind of like that cloud always over your head. That my first 3 years, my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, we had lost in the national championship game by 10 points, 10 points, and 3 points.
So you went the distance, but like came short at the end.
Yeah. So we were losers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was. We were losers, and that's kind of how we treated ourselves, because we didn't win the national championship, because not only was that the goal, but that was the expectation. So the discipline to go through that was fueled by a different type of motivation, by losing, by getting to that point, but you lost, and the way that we lost the first 2 games, the other team scored a touchdown with like 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter in both games. So and then the final, my junior year, the year before, we had only lost by 3. So the motivation versus the discipline, that's pretty important, because I was excited that it was my senior year. Everyone on the team was excited, the ones who were seniors, to get another chance to go back at it, and beat the team who had beaten us. But the discipline was the same. The habits were so strong. You didn't have a choice, and you didn't have a choice because it's like, again, looking back at the losses, that's the emotion that we had. Motivation is a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So we had kind of but emotion, when it's kind of hammered into you long enough, that becomes the discipline.
Right.
So we had 3 years of
feeling of losing, you embedded that.
Yeah, so it's an emotion still,
right.
And it's still kind of in that motivation, but when it's put, just pounded into you consistently, then it becomes a discipline. You're conditioned to it. So we kind of had this feeling of, we're not good enough, so I need to take my training up a little bit higher. Not much, because we were kind of already playing at the top, and me specifically, I was kind of already playing at the top of my game, and I wasn't being, this where listening to your coaches is very important too. For my position at tight end, I wasn't being asked to do much more. Like I was doing everything that they wanted me to, and I was already one of the best tight ends in the country at that point. So again, as an athlete, and you always want to strive to be the best that you can be, but you compare that with good coaching. The coaches are saying, hey, you don't have to add another skill this summer, leading up to in your senior year. You don't have to get any better at your blocking or your route running.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to get stronger in the weight room.
Okay.
Because there is a limit on things that you can do. I hate to say I have a limited mindset, because I'm more of a limitless mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very specific. LeBron James, when he lost in the finals, and this is a story that Chris will tell a lot of times, he only worked on his post game the entire summer, leading up to the next season. So he could go down, and he's a bigger dude, obviously, but if he's got somebody smaller on him, he's going to score, because he's just bigger. If he's got somebody bigger on him, well, he's faster than them, so he's going to still get it to the hoop and get dunks, layups, or just easy 2-foot shots. So that's kind of what I was listening to. My coaches were saying to me, and I was just listening to them. They want me to get stronger in the weight room. Plus, I was coming back from an injury that year as well. I had torn a meniscus in my right knee, and my senior year did all the stuff to my left knee. But to answer your question and kind of make that full circle now, is I was motivated by the fact that it was like kind of my last chance, one final opportunity.
Right.
Kind of felt like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that you get one last chance, and then it's, either everyone dies or everyone lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, I play that game in my head, and then a lot of people did as well. It's like, okay, we don't have anything to live for after this in our football careers.
I understand.
Yeah. It's just, but it's an exciting thing to go through, and then when you pair, if I have that individual feeling, and I'm in that same situation, and somebody else has that same feeling, and they're in that same situation, and we're on a team together, well, they're just better together with like-minded individuals, right?
Exactly.
And that became a powerful force.
People that sort of speak your language in a sense.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, you have to be surrounded by people who are supporting you and have the same mindset and want to succeed or have a common goal, and then it gets maybe a little bit of luck when you get people who are just really, really good at whatever their craft is or whatever their position is on a team, or a really good sprinter, and they're just really, really good. That you're really good too. you know that special things are about to happen because you have the same mindset, you have the same work ethic, right? The same discipline, and you're already pretty skilled. That's a crazy thing, because then my senior year we went out and we were actually setting a bunch of NCAA records on offense and on defense, and then we ended up winning the whole thing. But that again, kind of that feeling of winning it all, because I believe that it was the 3 years prior to of us losing, and it was kind of conditioned that way. It was a sigh of relief. Just like, oh, it's finally done. Not that it wasn't a celebratory feeling, but we were just finally slayed that dragon.
Yeah.
We were and that's something that I can say now for the rest of my life. I'm a national champion football player.
Exactly. Thing is, I like that you touched the thing about discipline and habit, but I actually want to take it a bit notch even higher. Because I often enough I think about you because I listen to another Shannon Sharp. He's an NFL Hall of Famer, and he has the saying. I don't know. He quotes always his grandfather or whoever that is. I might not be correct on this, but he always says, "Don't mistake habit for hard work." So it means like you can come early and you can be like you always show up on the workouts, but do you put in that hard work? Meaning you can like check the box, but do you actually, while making the check, did you make the work?
Yeah.
Hard work. Can you talk about some things that you encountered, like right now as a coach, and also like prior as an athlete, in that transition, how that like championship mentality or the approach that you want to win? I remember this personal for me. We were doing some sleds or something like that. I remember you were right into my ear, and you're like, you want to get this, right? You want to be Olympian, right? You want to get that goal, right? And I was like, man, I want the distance, right? I traveled like, I don't know, 8,000 miles, man. What are you talking about? Do I really want it? I came the distance. I'm here training. I'm like sweating, and I'm like giving it my all, and still, the way you approach me, you were still like questioning, and you like, I think you opened another level for me. And that's the case.
Yeah.
I think you opened and you like, look, it doesn't matter that you went here, right? It doesn't matter. Still, I'm gonna test you. Do you really, really want it?
Yeah.
If to me, it felt like that every time. I'm just may feel a bit like down or just I feel like these last reps or whatever last sets are a bit difficult. I remember that in my mind. I hear that. I hear your voice, and I'm like, come on, Axel, like give it all. Can you talk about like that, like how the mindset that you had as an athlete has transferred now into your coaching and like your career path, and now in the future that has been since from the your football days?
Yeah. So it's really, a lot of people maybe hear it like this, the separation is in the preparation or goals or, and it's all toward going for success in something, right? But I think what helps make it better is on the football field specifically, there are people who are really physically talented, and then there are people who are they're smarter than their physical abilities, right? And then the special players are a combination of both. They're fast, strong, everything, and they're smart. That's when really you start to see that come into play. Now, it's kind of like one of those things. It's okay, can somebody who's maybe more physically gifted, how can they get smarter? That's pretty hard,
right,
unless you're kind of naturally smart already, but they're kind of already naturally gifted, so there's kind of a level to it,
Yeah. Still
versus people
room to grow.
Yeah. But they might not, that chance to grow, it might not be kind of, I don't want to say impossible, but kind of like within the time frame that they have the chance to get smarter as a football player, to study film and to practice a different way or to get better, right? That might be really, really challenging for them compared to their physical abilities, which might be up here, you know. Then there's people on the other side who are a little bit smarter than they are physically talented. Now, physical talent means they kind of can split that in half. You're naturally skilled, right? But then you still have to do work in the weight room to get stronger and to get faster, right? Or for whatever sport it is that you're working on, your skill. You know what I mean? That's only half the battle, though, on this physical side of things. And even if somebody put on 20 pounds of muscle in the summertime and they did get stronger and they did get faster, right? But then they go to play football on the field, it sometimes doesn't translate. And a lot of times it doesn't. It's like, I'm not making you a better football player, you know, I'm making you a better athlete by being in the weight room to give yourself the best chance to get stronger and faster, to give yourself the best chance to be a better athlete on the field. So it's kind of in the physical side of things. And if they're smarter, right, they might be the undersized, the underdog, you know,
right.
But they know how to run the routes better, like Julian Edelman and for the Patriots, or before that, Wes Welker. Shorter receivers, you know, but they know how to get open, and they're very, very successful, you know. Tom Brady isn't as physically gifted as, well, who's the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now? Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
You know, Tom Brady's not going to run for 100 yards ever in his career, you know, but he's smarter and he's much more experienced, and all those things happen when he's got experience and he's can be better prepared. But then the Ravens beat the Patriots a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, right?
I believe so. It was around Halloween, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that can be confusing for some people because Lamar Jackson is probably better physically gifted, but he's still really, really good quarterback, you know? So what I'm getting to is what I want to pull out of people, and for me personally, is like I was a little bit better physically than I was understanding of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But once that finally started to click, and again, it was a decision I was trying to consistently make. But when you have to have good coaches around you and good teammates around you too, to say like, hey, this is like not only what are you supposed to be doing and how are you supposed to be doing that, but it's like, why is this important to do it better? That's probably the key question a lot of people need to ask is why. You know, why is this important to do that better? So again, that kind of circles back then to the quote of separation is in the preparation, and that just stems from having specific goals. So when you're coming into the weight room, you know, and this is obviously my profession, people have to journal their progress. Like, what are their goals? Okay, and then they meet with me and they say, this is the goals that I have. Here's where I currently am. Now it's my job to just help them bridge the gap to get their success, you know? And if we do that work together, we have to have a deadline to make it a solid plan of action before you can actually go ahead and start to execute on that. Once it's all kind of on paper and you're like, this is the plan that I'm going to go for, then it gets really fun because now I get to challenge you, you know, I get to get in your head like the instance that you talked about because you had a specific goal. So that kind of, even though my athletic days are done, now it's just the same mentality translating into business, you know, and I have to kind of learn how to do it myself first and then teach others. That's just how I personally learn. So now I have a team underneath me, not only of all the athletes and members that I still am coaching and designing programs for, but now I have other coaches that are looking up to me to kind of lead them. And I have then other coaches on my team specifically. And then in addition to my team, I have salespeople who they have certain goals. Right? So it's like now, imagine the same process if we wanted to run a faster 200-meter dash. Well, now it's like, okay, only 2 people want to run a faster 200-meter dash on my team. And then the other people are mile runners. And the other people are shot put and discus, the field. You know,
so you're managing a track team, basically.
Yeah, so it's not only like you can't just duplicate the same thing that I went through, it's multiplied by 10 different scenarios, you know, and different, but what I want to get to is the process is still the same. I can still, as long as everything is separation isn't a preparation, in addition to that being as far as like specific goals, a good thing to add to anybody's mentality on goal setting is you can't manage what you can't measure. So if you don't have something that you can measure,
Right.
the work that you're doing in the weight room, the work that you're doing in the office or in life on anything, then it's kind of like you're already limiting yourself without even knowing it by not having a very specific goal. And then when you actually attain it, that is luck, because you didn't even, it wasn't complete.
It's not like you're not clear what you're aiming for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like that you touched like how you like see other people and you have to manage them and stuff like that. But one thing that I've actually came into my mind is you mentioned listening to that song and it gives you goosebumps. Has there ever been a feeling, because I know I had this, because like I had a very long stint of not competing actually due to my injuries, but I came back, I would say successfully this season. And so what happened was, prior to that, I was just doing some office job and just, perhaps listening to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I had those like moments of like, man, I want to get back into like competing, beasting out, either in the workout and something like that. I just don't want to like hold back. I just want to tear everything up, like go all out. I was waiting for that. Do you, and knowing how like knowing I, for a long time, and still I would say the best feeling I have experienced is winning. Just after all of your long hard work, and then you cross the finish line, or just the buzzer sounds and you won the game and you're the champion, that's the best feeling I feel like I have experienced. Do you ever feel like that's like you actually experiencing that feeling and on your own skin? Does that gives you an advantage, or do you ever like take that as a tool to motivate others, or be like, hey, like I want to like have you have that feeling too, I want to like better you,
right?
Like I want to make you better as a coach, athlete, businessman, or whatever the case may be. Do you ever have that like an approach, or do you want to embed some of your success in them like that?
Yeah, that's why I'm a coach.
Yeah,
and that's what I think that my story is. Anybody can say like, oh, to be a leader or to be really successful, it's kind of like one size fits all, meaning there's only one way to do that. And I don't really believe that, because everyone's story is so unique, and the process of getting there is you can never be replicated. But that's why I'm a coach, is because I want to share that feeling. I want to see somebody else get as excited, or see if they can get more excited and happy about them feeling that than I was. And when I celebrated, we won the game. It was like I said, a little bit of the monkey was off my back. It's finally over, a sigh of relief, but I'm a winner. And that's something that, is buried deep down inside my heart now, that sense of accomplishment that no one will ever be able to take away, And a lot of times people can kind of fake things on the outside a little bit, and I do think I'm not crazy. Side note, I'm not crazy, but I don't believe a lot of like in magical powers and like the all these vibrations and stuff like that. I don't believe it all the way, but I believe it to a point. I believe that when you're a coach, and you're training athletes, and you're trying to, or whoever, and you're trying to pull something out of something more out of somebody, and they're completely tapped out, it takes something special that you've experienced before to be able to work your magic, so to speak, on that person. Meaning, experience is going to trump everything, in my opinion. Experience will trump luck, or a better plan. If you've never done it before, well, I'd rather bet on somebody who's tried it at least and maybe failed. I think that because they have the feeling of losing, it's very powerful. Same as the power of winning. It's just kind of different perspective. But for you specifically, and how I coach you, is like, I want to see you win. Not for me. Yes, it's for me, but it's for personal. It's like, it's a different type of personal satisfaction. I know that when you run your race, I'm not running that race, and I don't get credit for that.
Right.
But what does fill me up, or gives me that sense of fulfillment, is seeing you not only check all those boxes of training and preparation and nutrition and sleeping well and making commitments to come over from 8,000 miles away multiple times. That's insane. That's insanely awesome to do, right? But again, like you spoke earlier when we were doing the sleds on the driveway years ago, it's just a check in the box. It doesn't mean anything if you don't actually.
Yeah.
It does, but it's not as powerful as if you actually win or you're able to harness that and something special happens. And special things can happen from losing too. But again, I think it takes something like you kind of have a level of respect because of my story. You're an athlete trying to get there. I'm a washed up has-been now coach who has been there, done that though.
Right.
So now it's this special bond that you're seeking what I've attained. And when that happens, it's special. And again, I believe that somebody who has been there and done that, the experience factor will always, not always, but most times beat a better plan from somebody who hasn't done it before. And you can kind of just feel that I'm pushing you, and that's okay, because I want to see you get better. I want to see other people get better, because that level of excitement is awesome. And then it's kind of like how just I've been treated and how I've evolved is like, yeah, you won the game or you won the race or something, but life still goes on. Let's go to the next one. Celebrate it quickly, but then all of a sudden, let's go to the next level. Let's just not just win this race. Let's go win the Olympics.
Right.
And the whole thing is the same process, just restarts. You just chase different things in life.
Touching a bit like a bonus round. I want to have this answer from you, because I think from the people that I know, you might be perhaps best suited to answer this question. And I asked you this question before actually, but we didn't have much time, and so the answer was cut short. Can you explain me? This is what I've been trying to dabble around, because I'm trying to follow NFL as well. And can you explain me? Because I don't get it. If the quarterback is not good, but he has good receivers, how did the receivers then get the passes? And vice versa, if the quarterback is good and the receivers are not good, but still there's success. Since this is a team sport, how can you separate the two? Having a good quarterback and bad receivers, and a bad quarterback but good receivers. I don't get this.
I remember you asked me this. Yeah, so
it's a team sport. I mean, so everybody has to work in as a unit, right?
So it's now I think it's because it's quiet and I'm sitting down and I'm able to kind of understand the question better. It's an easy answer. You're forgetting one key element to the team. You've got the quarterback and you got the receivers, but what makes the team also? Coach. And coaches are in charge of what? They're calling the plays, right? So if you got,
I would have said everything.
Everything, yeah, of course. But specifically calling the plays for the answer to your question is, if you've got great receivers, but you've got a quarterback, and however he's bad, right? Meaning he just maybe doesn't have the best arm to throw the ball downfield. Okay, well then the coach is gonna call better plays that what the quarterback's skill set allows him to do, which is probably shorter routes, so we can get the ball out quicker to the receivers, as long as they're the right type of receiver who can do well. There's a possession receiver, or there's just going to be your playmaker who just gets the ball in their hands and they juke everybody out all the time. That's how they get the ball, the kind of the shorter, faster guys. So the coach is key. And that's just the missing link. It takes it takes the offensive linemen too. It takes the running backs. It takes everything. But that's why coaching is so important, because they can see what others can't, right? And they recognize certain things. But it's also about being realistic about the limitations that maybe the quarterback has. He can't throw the ball that well downfield. Maybe he just can't get the ball there, or maybe he's not as accurate and he can't put the ball in a proper location. It gets intercepted, right? So you got to figure out ways to kind of work with what you've got and then it's a business too. So don't forget, sports is a business. So at the end of the day, you can always find another quarter. There's a lot of fish in the sea. I mean, it works for so many different situations in life. But there's a lot of quarterbacks out there who might be a better fit for that system and the playbooks and the coaches and just the fit in general, the team, the organization. So on the other hand, then it's like, well, if your quarterback, that covers one part of it is the coaching and they're in charge of calling the plays and having the proper strategy. Now, if you have a really good quarterback, but the receivers aren't as good, it kind of just depends on how not good they are in certain areas. Maybe they're not that fast, so it takes them a little bit longer time to get open or to run their route to potentially get open. But you have a really good quarterback who can get the ball there fast and he can get there accurately and just put it in the right spot all the time, and they're on the same page. Well, now you're also forgetting the offensive lineman, because if your receivers aren't as fast, well, that means, and it's going to take them a little bit longer to get open. Well, your offensive line has to block a little bit longer to give the quarterback, who's really good, more time to actually throw the ball because he's kind of waiting on the receivers, So don't forget the offensive lineman. Never forget the offensive lineman. It's a tight end, I'm a receiver and an offensive lineman combined into one. Don't forget the big guys up front. And that's important too, because it's a whole team. And when you look at a team, it's like, you can look at them as a whole circle, but they're like one part of that big circle, one piece of the pie, if you will. And it takes the whole pie to be a strong team or a strong pie.
Right. One thing I wanted to ask you is, since you touched coaching as well in this aspect of the quarterbacks, what do you think is the coach's perspective of this kind of sense when you are coaching the game, but you now a coach, but you were an athlete, and there's a transition, right? I have heard this, and maybe you have experienced this on your skin since you're a former athlete and now a coach. Is there sometimes more goosebumps or more even stress looking at the game or looking at the performance when you're a coach? You're more stressed because you actually, you coach, you hands off. You cannot do anything but that. And then the athletes have to execute.
Right.
And then the coaches, sometimes I heard the story that they actually are in more stress in those, environments than when actually there were athletes themselves.
Yeah.
Can you touch upon that, and can you agree upon that, or it's an interesting thing. I don't think I have experienced that, but maybe you have.
That really is interesting, and I think my best answer is it just depends, like on so many factors. But sometimes, as the coach, again, you're in charge of so many things, but if you have, Bill Belichick wasn't or let's say Josh McDaniels is the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, right? He wasn't a football player growing up, right? So he might be, and imagine the Patriots are in the Super Bowl and they got to come back to win, and say that, he's on the staff for Tom Brady's first Super Bowl ever. Tom Brady's never been there. He's never done it before, Of course, now it'd be years later, it'd be a totally different situation because Tom Brady's been there and done that and came back from behind to win the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal, right? But in Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, he's never been there or done that. So maybe the best type of coach for him, for that type of player in that situation, would be somebody who's been there and done that before.
Right.
Versus, meaning saying, there's other tips that the coach can give an athlete instead of just the play and say, all right, go do it. Sometimes it takes a little bit different perspective, like the experience perspective of your coach might not have given you the right play, but it's like, hey, Tom, I remember 20 years ago when I was in the Super Bowl and I actually whether you won or lost, but whatever the example is. I remember it was the same type of situation, man. I know how nervous you are. I have full confidence in you, just to make this play happen. Again, you have confidence in your ability as the coach to call the correct play, but then it takes something a little bit different to give your players the confidence beyond the play, confidence in themselves to go out and whatever happens, they're going to make it work, So that maybe is again, this is my answer for it just depends.
Yeah.
So then Tom, fast forward to now, like Josh McDaniels, like I said, wasn't a football player, but he's an X's and O's guy. He's a wizard, right? He knows the better play to run based on all other factors that Tom Brady knows as well, but the coach knows better than Tom Brady, and he can see it from a different angle because Tom Brady can only see the game at this level. Josh McDaniels is usually on the sideline, I believe. Sometimes he's in the press box. And even if he's not in the press box, well, then Josh McDaniels has one of his assistant coaches in the press box saying, what do you see from the top down? Yeah. It becomes this crazy, beautiful, complex thing of fourth dimension, fifth crazy dimensions of all these factors, because if Tom's out there getting ready to throw the pass to win the Super Bowl, well, Josh McDaniels can see from the sideline that guy is not open, maybe from his point of view. But then the assistant coach says, no, he is open, or he's going to be open if Tom gives him a pump fake. And it's not that he can relay the information down and he can tell Tom Brady to give him a pump fake. That's ultimately up to Tom Brady, but it does take all three kind of points of view to make it work.
Right.
And when it does, then you see good things happen. And that is, going back to maybe your previous question before, is practice makes perfect, or the separation is in the preparation, the ultimate goal. You can't manage what you can't measure. What is the goal for this play? Do you just need a first down, or do you need a touchdown? So it's not a great answer unless you kind of go full circle into the different potential scenarios of that. But in a nutshell, it's like, it just depends, Yeah. And am I the greatest track coach in the world? No. Am I the greatest strength and conditioning coach in the world? No, far from it. But am I the greatest coach for you right now in this moment? Yes, because you're here at my gym and I get a chance to instill in you everything else, beyond everything else that we're at, like what we're doing, specifically in the program, and are you getting stronger and all these things. That's not to be undervalued, because that's obviously very important. But what I think is even more important is am I convincing you to believe in yourself?
Right.
And if you believe in yourself, would you think that you're a better athlete, regardless of if you go out to run a race and you just feel more confident?
Yeah.
Good things are probably going to happen, right? But if you go out there and you're still the greatest you put up another 100 pounds on your bench press this summer, and you gain 10 pounds of muscle, but your confidence is really low. Like, what does it really mean? If you don't think you're going to win the race, probably not going to. So it's a lot of like up here, mental strength.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember as you were saying this, Michael Jordan once said it's like, was he ever afraid of something, right? And he said, no, I play in practice like I play the game. So when I go to the game, it's like I already done this.
Yeah.
Right. So the preparation is a very important key. So it's like, it's not, you're not a. Some say, I remember Elliot one time in one of his videos said about being a practice hero or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think. And Chris touched it from a different angle as well. It's like from I don't remember, was it one of his videos or was it a blog post that he wrote? But it was like, actually you are what you are in practice, because like that kind of shapes you, right? So it's kind of if you lollygag in the workouts and practices, you can say you can switch the gear into training, but like you haven't prepared to be that ready, right? So it's,
yeah.
And having that coach that installs that like mentality and approach, and just that approach to everything. It's like the small things make to build the big things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a level of awareness too. Like as a coach, specifically as a strength and conditioning coach, I know that I'm not going to be on the track coaching you for your mechanics to make you better. I'm not going to be there at the actual. Don't get me. I would love to be there whenever you race, but I'm probably not going to be there. And even if I was, all I could do was help support you by saying, good luck, like you got this,
Right.
and make you confident. But the awareness is when I'm coaching you here and now, like that's the purpose, versus I'm not gonna, I don't know the finer details yet of making you faster runner. Maybe you need different shoes. I don't know. I would have maybe a good idea, but there are other experts, and it takes all of us working together at one thing. We become the team, whether that's surrounded an individual athlete in a sport that is based on individual results,
Right.
or it's a team dynamic. There's so many possibilities, but it's really a lot of fun. And if you're not practicing and you're making every single rep count, like this morning, I wanted you and Nathan to kind of just, hey, last man stand, like compete a little bit.
Yeah.
That competition is, you can make it whatever you want, but if you're not competing at least against yourself and how to get better, then what's the point? That you're not even, and then it would defeat the purpose of practice. Why doesn't anyone just go run the race and see if they win? Why doesn't anyone just go play the Super Bowl and see if they win based on luck? If that, it's like practice, like just like Michael Jordan said, like he has practiced so hard. He treated that like the NBA Finals, like the buzzer beater shots to go to the NBA Finals, whatever it takes to win. You practice that because those are the chances that you do get, the opportunities that you get to practice. And if you don't, I believe, if you don't execute those, then you're not going to get the chance to win it in real time. It's just not going to happen. And that's kind of like, I guess, where my faith comes into play, and some people call it karma or whatever. It's like, if you haven't practiced like you're in the Super Bowl, or you're in the national championship game, or you're in the Olympic finals, if you haven't even thought that, then you're lacking a little bit as an athlete. Or you may be, and if you're a coach coaching someone who has that dream, but you've never even thought that yourself of what it would be like, then you're lacking as a coach.
Right.
And then you're letting your athletes suffer, even without them or both of you potentially even knowing. But you gotta kind of cover the full spectrum of everything and say, yeah, we're doing this together because, again, like-minded individuals, when they get together, special things start to happen. Strength in numbers. But then when you start to add talent to that, it becomes a whole different type of monster. And when you start to add the right type of work to practice to get better with somebody who's a monster and people who are like-minded with you, it takes all the things,
You touched the feeling about just imagining being somewhere like in the finals or finals, basically, when you give out the championships. That's good enough to say. So I remember, I don't know, did you saw the movie Muse? It was like a couple of years ago. Like I sent it to Mark, and Mark then shared to Chris. But now
I haven't
perhaps
seen it. Yeah.
So it's a Kobe Bryant movie. I've seen it over 200 times. So in that movie, he talks about like winning his first championship, like in the failures he went through by airballing and stuff like that. And exactly what you said. It was he said, when you get there, it's not like a surprise because it's been here all the time. So yeah, talking about like being that. Do you sometimes, mentality wise, or by the way how they approach your workouts or the competition, you sometimes see yourself in an athlete that you coach? Has that ever happened to you before, or something like that? So can you share those experiences?
Yeah, and it has, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it, but it's kind of just one of those things you can see. One of my coaches used to say, a flash of excellence. It might not be consistent all the time, but it's a flash of something that they have the potential to do, and it might be one of the things as seeing you do your top speed mechanics before a class. You know, it's like, hey, it's not like a super amazing flash, but it's enough. I'm like, he's doing what he's doing what he's told to be doing, but he's actually doing it. You know, other athletes who might train at any other gym or with us, and like if they're not doing that, it's like, okay, I don't see that flash. I'm not really like totally convinced that they're gonna go above and beyond, you know, or that they're gonna be put in a position to go to that next level because they're not doing what is already asked of them, you know. And a flash of excellence then could be, hey, did you win the competition today? Yeah, you know, or did maybe you lost the competition, but did I see you absolutely push yourself to the max? That would be a case for a flash of excellence. I have another girl that I'm training right now. She is an amazing. She's only 16 years old, but she's an amazing athlete. She's going to be. I think she's going to be in the Olympics one day for track and field, for the discus and shot put, and maybe even javelin. But she just has, again, it's not a flash of excellence that's like super obvious to somebody, but she's got kind of like that. I can just tell that heart. She wants to get better. She's focused. She's not really super loud, you know. But she does, when she does speak up, or she does. And some people ask all the questions in the world, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I always tell people as a coach, there's no such thing as a dumb question, you know. Maybe if you ask that same question multiple times, you know, and you just don't understand it, it can come off dumb. Yeah, there's exceptions to everything. But so she specifically is very quiet and focused all the time, and a flash of excellence is based on the questions that she does ask. You know what I mean? She wants to know like how to just not only take it, how to execute it 99%. She wants to go 101. You know, she doesn't. She wants to know more. I guess maybe not 99 to 100, but she wants to go from 100% to 101%, and just asking a question like, "Hey, is this possible?" And for me as a coach, based on my experience and kind of what I believe ultimately is like, oh, yeah, there is, but you're not gonna like what my answer is for it, right. You know. But so I see that in a lot of athletes that I coach. I think I try to see that, you know. I like initially like doing their evaluation and seeing where they're at from start and what their goal is, and like I'm looking for common ground. If it's a football player, it's a little bit easier because I've obviously played football and that's my experience. I've ran track before, you know, but actually ran at the state track meet, you know, as a junior in high school, but I don't have like the professional experience, you know. But I've won a championship before, so that's common ground. And you kind of always search for something that's common ground, and then you build on that. Everything else will kind of fall into place, but you got to have something to kind of work together on between the two of you in order to do that. So I look for that almost right away, and I can almost say, well, I as a coach, I'm going to be able to bond with Nathan differently than I will be able to bond with you. You know, and there's multiple things that can go into that, but for you specifically, I'm like, you have a similar body type as me. Mm-hmm. I can bond on that even without you even knowing that. It's like, okay, taller, leaner, different angles for mechanics and things like that. Here's what might be able to help you, and here's a list of things that might be kind of a natural weakness, but can be overcome with this right way of doing this movement specifically, right. You know, or this mentality of how we do that and how we design the program, or how Chris will design it and how I coach that. So that's a bonding thing that I see, and it makes me connected and involved deeper with you specifically. Because at the end, like, we all want to win. Any athlete should want to win. If the athlete doesn't want to win, I don't want to work with them. Yeah. You know, but if I can add more things that we can bond on, it only makes that bond stronger, and we can work on that. And that's how I can push you. It takes a lot of like skills to try to be able to be good at those things, you know. And then Nathan, I can't bond with him. I can't create a bond on like physicality. He's shorter than I am, you know, and he's going to have different angles, and he might be even as far as specifically as the race goes, he might be better out of the blocks, you know. But and if it's 100, then I know I have to catch up to him because he got a faster start.
Right.
But I think if with my longer legs, I might be able to get him down the stretch.
Right.
Because all that matters is right before that finish line, right? And as you cross it, and if you're in the lead or if you're not. But I think I might be able to get that. So I might be able to bond with him on the things that are opposite. Because it's like, wow, you're really good at the things that I'm not, and I'm good at the things that you're not. It's bond. You know, like let's make it, we can work together here. Because ultimately we are working together. We're forming the team. So yeah, I search for those things as a coach, and to athletes and to anyone that you're working with or just people that you interact with. Find some common ground, even if it's not common ground. So a small example is this year, 2019, I've committed to trying to grow the strength of my faith. You know, my faith as a Christian and finding things of that nature. And again, this is my past experience. If I only, because of what I've learned about Christianity and Jesus, well, he didn't only surround himself with the leaders of the churches. He surrounded himself with everyone for a multitude of reasons, right? But then it's also like those things help shape you and make your strengthen your faith even more because you seeing it from different perspectives. So what that means, like realistically for me, I'm kind of like a baby Christian learning these things, and hey, this is kind of, or it doesn't have to matter with faith, but this is just my example.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked with more people this year who were atheist or agnostic or Jewish or had no belief in anything but themselves or had belief in money or whatever it is, you know, but common ground is you got to be able to kind of see through it, like making it a kind of a translucent lens that can see through things. You know, it's like, great, I believe, let's bond on this. I believe in something, you believe in something as well. They might be the total exact opposite. They might be sworn enemies, but can we talk about the fact of like that we both believe in something?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that can expand into something beautiful. And every single time it has. You know, if you were an athlete and you were talking to somebody who was in, what's the exact opposite sport of track? You know?
Actually, the thing is, in my language, the thing is, it's track and field. It's called Vegathletic, and weightlifting. It's called Smagathletic. Vegels means light, and smugs means heavy. So it's like in those sense, they are complete opposite. Yeah. But in kind of a training sense, in a way they actually supplement. Because like I know weightlifters that do jumps, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a track component, and then you know track athletes lift weights, which is a weightlifting component. But on that sense, you can like wordplay around that, you know.
Right.
It's like it's a language thing for my specific language. So yeah.
But that's common ground.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, because you know you have to lift weights. You have to. It's about. It's maybe even to break that down. It's about movement. Your sport is about movement. Their sport is about movement. It's different types of movement, obviously, but it's like, hey, do you like to move? Like, do you even like the sport that you're really good at, or that you're trying to be really good at? The passion behind it. Yeah, I have that same passion towards my sport. Let's be friends. Like, let's help each other. I think this again, put it in whatever category you want, but positivity, man, you know, optimism goes, it puts you in a special place. And when you kind of just believe in that and you stack, I work with a client in a different part of the country, and we talk about little wins versus big wins every single day, or everything that you and anything that you do towards like the total outcome, I guess, of your goal, versus little losses and big losses. You know, so it's like, well, what makes up a big W? You got to have little W's to fill up kind of, and like the goal would be kind of a bucket, you know, and in order to get that, you got to fill up the bucket halfway, and whatever fills it up halfway is going to win the whole thing. and you can either fill it up with little W's or little L's. And it's a competition because like every single day, many different, and those little W's and little L's just represent different variables or different challenges along the way. Yeah, you might not have had a great training session, you know, but did you still show up? That's like kind of when the power is in the athlete. Did they at least show up for their training session? Yeah. And if you can, like, was that something good? Yeah, great. That's a little W. Even though you might have had the worst workout ever, you still showed up. You tried. You're here committed to practicing and perfecting your craft. Versus, did you sleep in today because it was the day after Thanksgiving and you ate too much food yesterday or whatever, and you just thought it was okay to sleep in? That's a loss. That's a little L. That could maybe even be a big L. Right. Different severity, different types of punishment, I guess, for each one. But you get what I'm going towards there. And ultimately, it's like when you get enough little W's, you know, and you cross that halfway mark or the finish line, you have more little W's than little L's. Well, it just takes the majority takes it. Still equals a big W. What if you, in your final race of the Olympics someday, soon, let's be specific for your intention. What if you had the absolute worst start of your life, but you still won the race? What would that matter?
It would be a lesson to learn from.
Exactly, yeah. But at the end of the day, for the specific goal that you had was to win the Olympics, and if you're not specific on, I don't think you have to be that specific of like, okay, in order to win the Olympics in the finals and win the gold medal, I have to have the absolute best start, and I have to have every single step planned. Like, crazy people will go that far. That's Kobe mentality, you know?
Right.
I don't think that's wrong, but I don't think everything part of that is absolutely necessary. But I've never been in that race. I never visualized the entire national championship game. You just can't. There are variables that are unseen, and you're going to have to react to them as opposed to being proactive and kind of thinking ahead on, you know. But the people who kind of go that far, it's like, if you had every single step of that race planned out and visualized, and you just practice that over and over and over again, and you were finally rewarded with the opportunity to win, to be in the race, right? And you're like, this is exactly how I envisioned it, you know, but you lost the race. What is the goal is over. Like, you lost the race in that present moment. Now, later on, it just might not have been your time. It could have been raining. Somebody could have been faster than you. You could have false started and been disqualified out of the blocks, you know. But it's like you did get to that point, yes. And this is kind of where it gets a little bit kind of the answer, it depends, or it's contradicting. You ran the exact race that you should have every single step, but somebody beat you by, well, are you really, then it becomes like, yeah, you lost the race and you didn't accomplish the goal. But here's a whole different mindset, and this is about the process versus the outcome. Again, it's kind of like the whole mindset of what I'm working on and realizing now in the past of what I have always worked on, and every athlete has as well, is the process versus the outcome. Now, there's so many variables that go into it, but when you're focused on that, it's like, all right, I can come back next year and do this. Or I didn't have a next year for football. Like, I'm done. So it kind of, yes, in that situation, maybe it did depend a little bit more on the outcome, but I won. It's not, and it was the same, the outcome that I accomplished was the same at the end of the season as it was at the beginning of the season. Now, did I plan in my senior year to tear my ACL and my MCL and my meniscus and shred my cartilage and have no left knee? No, I didn't plan on that. That'd be stupid. Some people maybe plan on that. It's dumb though. But I accomplished the goal. Like, I got it. But what has led me to where I am today was the process. And what's leading me to greater things in life. Yeah, I have my goal for the outcome, but really I'm trying to learn more about setting my goal for the process. How can I execute every single day and get all those little W's, or maybe filling up that bucket to the brim, and it's just the if I only need 51% of those things in that bucket to be little W's to win versus the 49 little L's, well, now, because I'm learning to be obsessed with the process and not the outcome, I'm trying to get even better of making it 52 W's to 48, 53 to 47, 99 W's to 1, or 100 W's to 0. Because the outcome comes and goes. You know, I'm not in the national championship game anymore. That's years ago. Have I had many other nights since then? Yeah, every night since then, right?
Right.
But now I'm in a position where I'm at because it's like about the process. Okay, how can I set up my day and plan out things ahead of time and put me in a position to get those wins, and it's going to be a better shield, if you will, against those things that I have to react to, those variables that I just can't plan for. You know, it's like, oh crap, well, you know, did I plan for, you know, somebody to call in sick and now I have to cover their shift? I didn't plan for that, you know. Or did I plan for somebody to whatever? No, it just that's kind of like chalk it up to the game of life. It just happens.
Right.
And how you handle it, it was like, well, again, it kind of falls back on the process. And then the process is separation and preparation. Manage. You can't manage what you can't measure. You gotta have goals. All these things tie into that. But when you have that mindset and you just have a belief in yourself, it's kind of where it starts, and it goes big places. Sometimes fast.
I want to ask you this question. This is like maybe a overlapping question, similar because like I know the answer from that you work with John Deere,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a athlete and now a coach, but in between you were working at John Deere. What were the pointers or what? How did you understood that actually coaching and being a coach is something that I need to do? That this is for me, and like some, you know, not like I remember you were telling me the story about like how you decided to go away from John Deere, but like perhaps there was like some pointers where you literally understood like I should be a coach. Yeah. I should be a coach.
Good question. So learning from strength camp, overtime athletes, Elliot and Chris, and then anybody else who I've just been fortunate enough to learn from, is about kind of like this holistic picture, you know, light side versus the dark side, and kind of a Star Wars reference, but like they're both force users, you know what I mean? To go a little bit further, is one of the best coaching cues that I've come up with is to have somebody do the exact opposite of what they think they should do in order to succeed.
Okay, explain upon that.
So if I kind of have it broken down into, there's 3 types of learning, right? There's an audio cue, meaning they hear it. There's a visual cue, meaning they see somebody do it. And there's a kinesthetic cue, meaning they learn by doing, right? You got to have a way to kind of, if you're going to try to manage something, you got to have a way to measure it. So you got to create a system around that. The system that I created was kind of like based on, you know, baseball, like 3 strikes and you're out, you know, and then there's a consequence for that. And I just kind of like took a little bit of that into this. Is like, if somebody, I got to have a way to measure this. If I've got 3 possible ways that somebody can learn how to squat, you know, okay, that's good. That makes me, because I know that, well, let me just say this. Being a coach is like knowing that somebody wants to squat and I think I can show you, or I can get you to squat. Meaning they can do the movement. Mm-hmm. How accurately they do that movement depends. You know, like you've seen some people who, hopefully you haven't seen people in here who have a bad squat, you know. But maybe in other gyms you've seen them have just awful form, and they need to be coached, or they need to go to get better at that. Well, there's kind of like coach, and then there's a good coach, and then there's a great coach. So I'm thinking, the only thing better than 1 is 3. It's not just 2, it's 3. It gives you multiple, gives you better odds, I guess. You got to try more things.
Right.
So if what I've taken, I guess, from baseball and kind of like 3 strikes, and then kind of like, then you got to move on after that. Obviously, you don't get any more chances to bat if you had 3 strikes and you're out. You got to wait for your turn for the next one. So if I'm trying to teach somebody how to squat and I'm a coach, well, this is what I think is going to take me to be a good coach, is I'm going to figure out what one of each of those types of cues would be, audio, visual, or kinesthetic, to get somebody how to squat better, or to squat in general, So I think that makes you a good coach, recognizing that there are 3 ways that people learn, and they're hiring you as a coach because they want to be taught how to do something, right? So if you're a good coach, you know that there's at least 1 type of audio cue, 1 type of visual cue, and 1 type of kinesthetic cue. Now that step that goes from good to great is you should have 3 of those. You should have 3 types of audio cues, 3 different types of visual cues, and 3 types of kinesthetic cues. So you have 9 potential cues to give in order to make that person squat.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, because you do have the time as a variable that people forget about a lot. So I know if I've gone through all of those cues, those 9 potential cues, and somebody still can't squat properly, sometimes the best thing to do is the exact opposite, right? Because I know, and I'll explain what I mean. You go 0 for 9. It's like, damn it. Now I'm like, all right, I'm getting frustrated because the client's getting frustrated because I'm telling them that their squat is not good. So it's frustrating on both parts. And they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, why don't you just try to do a squat the wrong way? Do you know how to do a squat the wrong way? Like, let me show you, maybe go through another 9 cues of, I don't think you're gonna have that much time, but another 9 cues of how to do it incorrectly. That would be in that transition from a good coach to a great coach, and then just have them kind of try to do it the wrong way. Well, we know on a squat, you want to keep your heels on the ground, your toes angled out slightly, and your knees need to open up your hips so you can lower yourself down safely, keeping your spine in a good position, and to use all your muscles and to keep your core activated properly to be able to rise up out of that squat, regardless of the amount of weight that you have. Could be body weight. Body weight form is the same as 1 rep max form. Should be, right? Because a squat is still a squat. It's about the movement, not about the weight that you have and all those things. That doesn't matter. But if you can't squat, it's like, now, how would you squat the wrong way? Well, you could probably do the exact opposite, right? Of coming up onto your toes, and instead of your knees going out, they could cave in. And instead of your back being flat, well, you could probably round that forward. And you could just ultimately try to come up and then fall to the ground, try it, it's like, well, okay, try to do it the wrong, if that's how you think the wrong way is, try it. Because I've exhausted all the 9 cues that I have, all the ammunition I have here, try to do it the wrong way. And then somebody's like, oh, that's stupid, why would I do that? It's like, no, I'm telling you to try it the wrong way because this is still coaching, you haven't gotten this yet. You have to try to do it the wrong way now. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's dumb. I'm not going to do it. Like, no, or else I'm done coaching you, So they try to start to do it the wrong way, and they're coming up on their toes and caving their knees in and rounding their back forward. And then all of a sudden they might get, halfway down or 3/4 of the way down, or might get all the way to the bottom of that squat. And because it's wrong, then it's like, okay, it all works. Snap. But it's like, then they get to the bottom and they're like, oh crap, this feels wrong. It finally clicks for them. That 10th rep is, okay, now their heels are on the ground. Now their toes are angled out. Now their knees are driven out. Okay. Their back is flat and their core, it finally works. The connection is made. But in order to get there, sometimes you have to tell them to do the opposite. That's what I'm getting at. Now, don't tell them to do the opposite right from the beginning. Yeah. If you wanted to win the Olympics and I told you to run the race backwards, you think you'd win?
I mean, there are some drills where you do it like backwards, you know.
Right. And that's important, but it's like don't just go 1 for 1. Don't just go 3 for 3. Don't just go 9 for 9. Go 10 for 10. Or go 0 for 10. Maybe that's the better way to do it. If somebody hasn't learned out of 10 chances, then it's like, oh my gosh, you've had 10 chances to learn how to squat. Maybe you just shouldn't squat. Maybe that's why you hired me as the coach, to just tell you, maybe you shouldn't do this. Which would be dumb for me to say, because that's my profession, right? But some people, like, there are cases in life that's what happens. So sometimes the best advice is to try the opposite, to get yourself out of a rut. You know, if you have a problem waking up for your alarm all the time, you know, or your alarm goes off and you just despise it so much that then you have multiple alarms and with multiple snooze buttons. It's like, and you're still late to work, or you're late to your workout or whatever. Maybe you should just turn your alarms off, you know, because you've clearly had enough chances to try to succeed at that opportunity, but it just isn't working out for you. You know what I mean? So maybe you should just turn your phone off, and maybe by God's good graces, you'll just wake up miraculously. You know? Again, that would be a crazy example of doing the opposite.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a crazy example in and of itself. So, yeah.
Kind of the last question of this interview, I actually want to give you the opportunity to ask me a question. So,
let's see from this little list here.
Yeah.
Can you help me narrow it down into any topics or anything?
Whatever comes into your mind, just if you would like to ask me something and know more.
Yeah. I have one for you.
All right.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you get home to help your grandma with her hip? Because I know you're going to.
Yeah.
I know that's not the Axel that I know to not try to help and coach her.
Well, and this, I would approach it like from a very, how to say, kind of strict way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about just going, visiting her and see where are we standing at this point. What's the progress? What should we do? What can we do? Or you know, what's the status of all that? Mm-hmm. I think that's the beginning, and then from that I can tell you more. You know, but as of right now, I cannot tell you that.
Yeah,
because like first we evaluate.
And I would call that good.
So
There's
that's like
right or wrong answers, you know. But from what you said, I think that's good in my experience, because you gotta go there and you gotta figure out, you gotta evaluate what's going on. That's common ground. You know, you got to go ask grandma, like, hey, because I know that we were sharing some of the specifics, like, grandma, do you want to get better? You know, at least you got, like, clarification is common ground too. So at least you know, there's awareness, you know, it's like, okay, do you want to get better? Or are you kind of okay being somewhat bedridden and just think that it's kind of not going to work out and all these things? It's like, yes or no provides a lot of clarity. If it's yes, then you have a different route to go. If it's no, then, well, you got to kind of get her back onto the yes, she's going to get better, you know, and all these things. But good, I think that's an appropriate answer, is you're going to try. You don't know what's going to happen, but you got to get clarification and awareness and common ground, and then you can build from there. It's from the foundation up.
Yeah, that's how I at least see it. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for having the interview.
Absolutely,
it was a pleasure.
Yes. Another 3 years from now, we'll do another one.
I hope to come earlier.
Yeah.
So, thanks.